This episode of the Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is your daily fantasy platform for player props. Now, Thrive Fantasy is offering our listeners an instant match on their first deposit of at least $20. Use promo code DTSN when signing up today. Start picking your props, racking up points, and winning cash prizes.
Aaron Donald creates the fumble. Goff goes crashing into the end zone. It is intercepted by Jalen Ramsey. Robert Wood, touchdown, LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Caught, touchdown, Tyler Higbee. It's Michael Brockers who gets there. A'Shawn Robbins, Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air. Taylor Rapp, who had one taken away, will take this into the end zone. Henderson with a good run and a first down, still on his feet. Safety in the arms of Leonard Floyd. Up top, touchdown, Van Jefferson. Terrell Lewis. Everett in stride. Wow!
Hit behind the line, Terrell Burgess, 26.
Hopkins at the goal line and in for his second touchdown. Malcolm Brown into the end zone. Abu Khan with the strip sack. Picked off by Troy Hill.
Akers with a stiff arm. Akers into the end zone. Cam Akers.
LA will play for the Lombardi.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen, who again has made me do the intro. But it's okay, because Jake and I were super happy today. The Rams had an outstanding win against the Washington football team, 30-10, and it's also Jake's birthday. So on behalf of all of us Rams fans, Jake, I want to congratulate you for being a quarter of a way to 100. That is something really fun to think about. So happy birthday, Jake. The Rams got a win on your birthday. How are you feeling?
Well, I really appreciate that, Alexis.
You're welcome.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not going to lie. This game had a little bit of everything that I would want for my birthday. A Rams win, a usage of Cam Akers. How about the 46-yard run by him?
Yeah.
Jared Goff played well. You got one for the brand because, as you know, I'm the honorary captain of the Ja'Kai Polite, fan train. And then, of course, my guy, Troy Reeder, our guy, Troy Reeder, getting those 3 sacks, silencing the haters, at least, for a week. It was a fun win. I know the Rams could have won by 50, but the rain came down. I think McVay just wanted to go really conservative and just make sure they had the W and nothing crazy happened where an interception or, a fumble. So I think that's, the route the Rams decide to go in. And ultimately they're able to get that last score in because of how just down in the dumps Washington was, not able to move the football.
Yeah, and I want to point out that on the last episode of Downtown Rams, when we had our friend Matt on to discuss the Rams versus Washington game, I predicted that the Rams were going to win this game 31-10. And that would have happened had Sam Sloman not missed the first extra point. So I don't want to say I was right, but I was right. I'm going to give it to myself because I said 31-10. It should have been 31-10. So that's a not so humble brag from me.
Well, you would have been right if they picked any of the other 2 kickers.
Well, right. If you put me in to kick, we probably would have won.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, I want to point out, if you guys hear any screams, I have my back door open because it's really nice here in Chicago right now. And there's 2 little girls in the neighborhood who always are playing outside. And there's just these joyous childhood screams. But I feel like it might not come off that way. If you hear a scream, I assure you everything's fine. It's just the youth having a fun time enjoying this beautiful day. So don't freak out. I just want to throw that out there. But a great team win today. And as I was telling Jake before this episode, is there really isn't a lot to break down. I mean, there's a few things to break down. We're going to do that, but it's always in a weird way, either a really good sign or a really bad sign when there's not a lot to say after a game. It either means that the game was so bad that you are speechless and you just you can't even comprehend that your team just played that way, or your team did pretty much everything right. And there's really not a lot to critique or break down. And that's kind of the case here. But, one of the things to talk about, and this is a good talking point, is the Rams defense. And let's just give it up for Aaron Donald and Troy Reeder. Aaron Donald had 4 sacks and Troy Reeder had 3 sacks. It's not so surprising from Aaron Donald. I mean, 4 sacks is quite an accomplishment, but he is the best defensive player to ever play football ever. But Troy Reeder, Jake, what do you have to say about that? I mean, Troy Reeder is certainly somebody who has caused some controversy among Rams fans. I think he gets a lot of a negative attitude towards him for whatever reason from Rams fans. But today he pretty much silenced all of those guys. He went out there and he got 3 sacks. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm just really happy for him, because I don't think it's a surprise or a secret, that Rams fans have given him flack since day one. I choose to look at it a little differently. I know people want to say he's trash or that, this is somebody that is, they just use words like trash, garbage, whatever. But you have to look at it like this. Here's the thing. Troy Reeder is a undrafted rookie free agent out of Delaware. He transferred from Penn State, as you and I both found out because, we interviewed him and why he transferred there.
We have a fun story about him that we can't share. It's actually not even about him. He's indirectly involved. Like he wasn't even part of it, but sorry, go ahead. Yeah, we know.
Yeah. So, wow, you dropped that. Okay,
yeah,
so...
leave him wondering.
So, yeah. So, I mean, the thing about Troy Reeder, undrafted rookie free agent out of Delaware. And, the thing is, he started 8 games last year because Micah Kiser was out for the year. He came in and he wasn't the best. And he's not the best linebacker in football, but he doesn't have to be. He filled in for Micah Kiser last year, started 8 games. And then this year, he had to fill in for, once again, Micah Kiser, who has not shown the ability to stay healthy. And he came in and he had 3 sacks. He had a huge stop on 3rd down. He had a bunch of hits on the quarterback, some pressures in there. He missed a play where McKissick, juked by him, and he missed another where they, strangely had him cover one of the more dynamic receivers, young receivers in the game, in Terry McLaurin. But aside from those 2 plays, and then of course the play where he got blocked out of his shoes, he was really good. And, I think that's all you can ask for out of a player that is a backup. He came in and he did a nice job. And, if you're going to hate on Troy Reeder, I mean, let's, there's some time for some self reflection. I mean, would you be hating on Micah Kiser if he had the same game? Probably not. And that's the thing is I don't want to, get anybody in trouble for things they haven't or haven't done. But, the thing is, if Kiser goes out there and he has 3 sacks, it's not being talked about like the way it is with Troy Reeder and how people are, trashing Troy Reeder the whole game. I just think, let's this year or this upcoming year as our New Year's resolution or pre-New Year's resolution, let's do a better job of just taking both players, no matter who it is, player A, player B, if they both, perform the same, let's not have a preconceived notion or a preconceived bias about the other player just because we like the other player. Let's call it for like it is. If a player offers production at the position, give him the props. Don't wait until the player that you like more has the production.
Right.
And I know I got to get better at that. I do. But, I just think that's what I kind of took away from this game, just being on Twitter and interacting with the fans, that there are some that were sticking up for Reeder, but there are some that did come straight at me for saying that Troy Reeder had 3 sacks. I mean, I'm just stating the obvious, their stats. I just think, we all have to do a better job as fans, analysts. I feel like everybody has, those preconceived biases and, they may not, let it on, but I just think we have to do a better job of being more objective.
Yeah, totally. And, you and I have always liked Troy Reeder. But, I understand how some fans before this game might have been frustrated with Troy Reeder. He certainly has had times when he's been playing where he's made a lot of mistakes. But that's to be expected. Like we said, he's an undrafted guy. He hasn't had as much playing time as some of the other people on the Rams defense. But you got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, look at Darius Williams, another guy who has kind of came out of nowhere and is now one of the stars, honestly, on our defense. And, he played incredible today. And I think for the most part, most people on the Rams defense played really well today. John Johnson, again, played really well today. So that was really good to see. Taylor Rapp even had a really good play against the quarterback today. So it was really fun to see the Rams defense play so well. I know everyone's like tired of me harping on the Rams run defense, but it seemed like, a lot of people were agreeing with me on Twitter, especially in the first half. I wish that we could kind of clean that up a little bit, but we definitely made up for it. So again, I'll take it, with the way that the Rams defense has been playing. I just would like to see the run defense cleaned up a little bit. But now let's talk about the offense, because the offense, obviously there were some struggles today with the offense, but also I think it's important to point out that for a majority of this game, it was pouring rain. And that really makes things difficult for offenses in the NFL when you're playing the pouring rain, it just always increases the odds of a drop ball or a fumble or a bad pass or things like that. But Jared Goff was pretty accurate today. I mean, I would say that he played almost a perfect game, except for the interception. The interception, there was no excuse for that. That was just a mistake, but that happens. But what were your thoughts on the way Goff played? Because, I mean, he played, like I said, almost the perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that, errant pass that, I mean, you could chalk it up to just the elements getting involved. He was really good. I mean, and I think this is just something that we continue to see from Jared Goff week in and week out. He is getting better and better as a thrower of the football, as a pocket passer. And just somebody that's able to go through reads a little bit quicker than he has, throughout his career. So, I look at Jared Goff and I see improvement each week. I see, things to really take away, like, ooh, he just did something I haven't seen him do. And, you talk about the throw last week, to Malcolm Brown to pick up that first down where, he's, sliding in and out through pressure, climbing the pocket and, doing enough to get that first down and get it to Malcolm Brown last week. He's just doing more and more of that. And, I do think he deserves, credit for that. I think, it was really nice to see Gerald Everett once again kind of, keep that train rolling. We saw his momentum starting to build last week. So to see him more involved with the offense is a good thing. Obviously not for fantasy Tyler Higbee owners, not for, a bunch of owners on this team. I mean, like, I think everybody on this team is on fantasy teams, but Gerald Everett himself is really starting to gain some traction. Now, he's done this in the past, so we will see, but it just looks like a different Gerald Everett, in my opinion. He looks better, more comfortable with the football in his hand, playing more like he did at South Alabama, the type of guy that led the country in missed tackles generated by, a tight end. That's the type of guy that they want him to be. So, we'll see about his long-term future at the Rams. He could save himself. Otherwise, he also could price himself out of the Rams range. But this is a contract year for Gerald Everett. And having a game like this, teams are watching, and definitely Washington, after their tight end caught one pass for 4 yards. They're definitely watching Gerald Everett, take 4 catches for 90 yards and 22 and a half average. And they're definitely watching that in this game, especially his 40 yard catch, moving forward.
Well, what Gerald Everett is doing is he's forcing the Rams to make a decision. Because if you think about it, if Gerald Everett keeps playing this way, basically what he's doing is he's making them, in a way, choose between him and Bryson Hopkins. Now, could the Rams keep Higbee, Everett, and Hopkins? It's not totally I think unreasonable to think that they would do that. I don't think that is a direction that they will go in. I think that Gerald Everett right now, basically what he needs to do is he needs to have an amazing season, and then the Rams or him have a decision. He could either be traded or, he could be kept on the Rams, and maybe they trade Bryson Hopkins because they will never get rid of Higbee. And this is something that's probably far down the line. I don't see this decision on Everett happening soon, but I do think that this is a really big year for Everett because, he's basically proving his worth. And I mean, you see how he played today. If he does that all season, the Rams might have a tough decision coming up about him. But something else I wanted to point out, because we're talking about Jared Goff and we're talking about how the offense is flowing. The offensive line. Okay, now this Washington team has a lot of problems. Okay, we played against a team today that I've been saying is probably going to end up with a top 3 pick next year in the draft. Okay, I'm not a fan really of anything about this Washington team except for their defensive line. I mean, Washington has one of the most, in my opinion, underrated defensive lines in the league. They have Chase Young, who's obviously a star. He was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. You have De'Aaron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Montez Sweat. That is a pretty scary defensive front, and our offensive line today did a great job of keeping them under control. There was obviously a few plays where they won the battle, Washington did, but I thought overall it was really impressive how our offensive line was able to, for the most part, contain them, because that's not an easy feat. People want to talk about how bad Washington is. Well, that's fine, but their front defensive line is not bad. They're actually pretty good, and we did a good job of containing them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then as far as receivers go, I thought that our receivers did a pretty good had a pretty good day today, but I'm laughing because I was telling you, Jake, that I was just like, for fantasy purposes, I actually needed Kupp to do like a lot more, which is like crazy because he actually had a good game. But I could tell, and you might agree with this or disagree, but I think that Washington kind of put their emphasis in a weird way on Kupp because it seemed like he was the receiver that they focused the most on covering. And from a fantasy standpoint and just from a statistics standpoint, that seems to be the case.
Well, you remember when, Matt came on and he said, a player to look out for was Kevin Pierre-Louis.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and watch the film when we get the All-22 access. But Kevin Pierre-Louis, it appeared that they really just didn't want Tyler Higbee to hurt them. And so when the Rams had Tyler Higbee stretched out wide on one side of the field and Gerald Everett on the other, I feel like they put such a premium on Tyler Higbee that Gerald Everett was able to have a good game. And so I think, I could go back and I could see, maybe if they did put a premium on Kupp, but it just seemed to me like they game planned against Tyler Higbee and they didn't want the Rams to beat them with the run. And, I thought Darrell Henderson looked good, but, the yards per carry average of 2.5 is nothing to go crazy about. He had 2 touchdowns, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Washington did a nice job of stopping the run. And, of course, anytime you give up 129 yards on the ground, it's going to obviously sound not good. But when the leading rusher has 61 yards and 46 of those came on one run, I think they did a pretty good job. I know the Rams had control of this game for pretty much the entire game, but I thought Washington did a good job with the run. I think Jared Goff just really did a nice job operating without much of a running game today. That's where, the great quarterbacks step up and they make their money, and Jared Goff did that today.
Yeah, totally. And Washington, they definitely did a good job against the run. A large part of that was their defensive front, which is, if I'm a Washington football fan, there's obviously a lot to be worried about, specifically kind of the quarterback situation, the offense situation. There's just a lot, but if I'm a Washington football fan, I am excited about that defensive line because they are, like I said, I think they're probably the most underrated defensive line in the league. They're very, very good, and they just have the misfortune of playing on a bad team. And I think while we're here, we have to talk about Alex Smith. I mean, what an incredible story.
Oh yeah,
he was playing against us this game. So obviously, I didn't want to see him win because of that. But if he was playing against anybody else, I would have loved to have seen Alex Smith go out there and just light it up. You've said this on Twitter. I'm saying it now. I'll be cheering for him the rest of the season. Absolutely incredible story. 17 surgeries, almost lost his leg after a brutal hit a couple years ago. And the fact that he was even playing in an NFL game today is just remarkable. And I was terrified for him. I saw all Rams fans on Twitter during the game. It's like we were so conflicted because, we love to see our defensive line get sacks. I love to see Aaron Donald get sacks, but I was terrified for Alex Smith's life. I was literally just not breathing because I was like, I really hope that he's okay. And he was. I mean, he got hit a lot. I mean, we hit him a lot. And he was okay, and that was a good sign. But man, what a treat for us to be able to witness the comeback of Alex Smith today.
Yeah, it's something you'll be able to tell your kids. It's pretty crazy. I mean, to have somebody come back from 16 surgeries, someone that would have lost their leg to play his first game back since 2018. It's just incredible. It's one of those sports moments that I don't think I don't think it's going to be stopped. I think they'll talk more about this than the Rams winning because I think it's that big of a deal. And I think we should make a big deal about it because, Alex Smith is a hell of a player. He's a hell of a person. He's been through so much, including, being benched in San Francisco, being picked instead of Aaron Rodgers, always getting, unfortunately being overshadowed by Aaron Rodgers his whole career since he was the number one overall pick that year in the draft. Going to the Chiefs, then being, kind of kicked out in favor of Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, this guy has been kind of all over and he has, carved out a really good NFL career. He had an unfortunate leg injury where his leg basically snapped, Joe Theismann. And I mean, everybody knows what happened with Joe Theismann's leg. We won't get into how eerie it was because it happened on the same down, same play, there's so many parallels. It's creepy. But the fact that he was out there, I don't care. He only threw 37 yards. I don't care. He was sacked 6 times. I saw somebody that was unbelievably strong and tough in the pocket. He wasn't complaining to an official about getting hit. He just took the hit. He went down and tried to lead his team. And, that's all you can really ask for. The Rams did a really nice job against the run in this game. Only 14 carries, but they held him to 38 yards. So, Jared Goff was playing without much of a running game, but, Alex Smith was definitely playing without a running game. He had to put the team entirely on his back. Obviously, it wasn't going to be for today. And keep this in mind, Alexis, and many people that are listening to this. Kyle Allen got all the first team reps. At no point during the week were they like, Alex Smith is going to be our starter. So when Alex Smith came in, he had no first team reps with this offense. I think that was really impressive just for him to stand in there and, coming off of, all the surgeries he's had. I mean, it's just one of those sports moments that I don't think I'll ever forget. So shout out to him and shout out to Tamarick Hemingway, former Ram drafted in the 2016 NFL draft. Big fan of his. He's a friend of the podcast. I interviewed him, one of the nicest guys. To see him get his first NFL catch against the Rams was pretty cool. Not going to lie.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Alex Smith didn't get the win, but in a way he kind of did. He got a personal win, I think, today. I think that, like you said, just incredible to witness. And just in closing here, because, I think we pretty much covered everything about the game. I don't want to be this person, but I do want to bring up the kicking situation just for a second.
No, bring it up. Bring it up. It needs to be brought up.
Okay. And I've said this every podcast since week 1. This is the perfect story of why you should never draft a kicker. And I know people are going to be like, chill out. I mean, he only missed 1 extra point. Okay, he only missed 1 extra point, but he's missing an extra point or missing a kick every game now. You just should never have a liability at kicker because it's not that hard to find a consistent kicker. I mean, I was telling Jake today, Taylor Russolino, who was the kicker for the St. Louis Battlehawks in the XFL. He is posting videos every day on his Twitter. He's hitting 61-yarders consistently. It's not a problem for him. And there's a lot of guys like that. And I don't know why they're not in an NFL team. The kickers that the Rams had in training camp were far better than Sloman. And the only reason that Sloman ended up on the team is because the Rams didn't want to feel like they wasted a draft pick. So Jake, I'll let you close with your thoughts on the kicking situation, but it's really not okay, in my opinion, to have a liability at kicker in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to close on such a doom and gloom type of topic, but I hear you though. I do. Yeah. And the thing is, I'll say that it's not that you could never draft a kicker because the Rams did draft Greg Zuerlein. But we knew Greg Zuerlein was special. You knew he was special because he was kicking not far away from where you're located. So I'm sure you heard him plenty of times. But I mean, Sam Sloman, there wasn't anything special about the kid. We knew that he met with the Rams in the draft process, but that's really all we knew about him. This isn't somebody that blew the doors off kicking. I believe he had a percentage that was around the 70s. Field goal percentage, and that's not good. Rodrigo Blankenship is a perfect example of how they didn't have to draft a kicker this year because there wasn't anybody that was super special. But Blankenship was at the Senior Bowl. They call him Hot Rod. He's a very, talented and very well-respected kicker. He's now with the Colts, and he's killing it with the Colts. And he's a rookie. Tyler Bass with the Bills. He was an option. I don't know. I don't think Sloman was the best kicker in this draft at all. I think he might have been maybe outside the top 5. So to have two kickers on the roster that were likely better during the, training camp, area of the season, I'm not a fan of it. If they cut him, I'll never wish, anybody losing their job, but if you don't perform, you don't deserve to have your job at the thing that you're supposed to perform at. And for me, if they put Sloman back in the practice squad, they could do that, but I wouldn't have him be my kicker moving forward. No way.
Yeah, neither would I. And like you said, it's totally different if you have a guy who's like breaking records in college and is just lighting it up and is playing amazing. But Sloman wasn't that guy. Sloman was a fairly average college kicker. So that's what doesn't make sense about it to me. You brought up Zuerlein. I mean, Zuerlein was a superstar in college, so that makes sense. This doesn't make sense. But you're right. I don't want to end on a bad note. So I'm gonna end with this. Guys, the Rams right now are 4-1 in the NFC West, which is the hardest division in football. I think that a lot of people would agree with that. People who aren't even in the NFC West would agree with that. The 49ers right now are actually losing significantly to the Dolphins at the time of us making this podcast. The 49ers, also to be fair, are super, super, super injured, which is always a bummer. I never wish injuries on anybody, but that's just the reality in their interdivision. So that does help us. The Cardinals are, playing well. The Seahawks are playing well. But really, my philosophy this season is we cannot focus on what the other teams are doing. We just have to keep winning. That's all that we can control. And the Rams are winning. The Rams right now should be 5-0. They should be. We should not have lost that game against the Bills. We all know how that ended. But we can't dwell on it. We are 4-1, Jake. It is very exciting. Next week, we go against the 49ers, and we're going to have one of our good friends, Eric Crocker, come on the show for that. So in that game, I think will be pretty intense. But yeah, I think we should all be excited right now. I think the Rams are playing really, really well. We are proving that we're not overrated. We are putting up great numbers. Our defense is getting better every week. Our offense is getting better every week. And I think right now we have a really decent chance of winning the NFC West. I think the only competition we have in the NFC West right now is the Seahawks. And that's the way that I see it. So I think we should just control what we can control and keep winning.
I agree with you. I think this team has a chance to be Sean McVay's best team of his, entire coaching career, and he's coached a Super Bowl team. So, I think this team has all the weapons in the world. They have a quarterback that is proving every single week that he is not only their franchise quarterback, but anybody would want to have him unless, you have Patrick Mahomes. He's just continuing to get better. They have a stable of running backs that, could start on multiple teams. And then their defense not only highlights the best player in football, they have the best cornerback in football in Jalen Ramsey, but they have players that are starting to really show up. You had Troy Reader today. We've seen Jordan Fuller. We've seen John Johnson III. We've seen Kenny Young flash. They'll be getting Ashawn Robinson back. Terrell Lewis had his first game of his career today. And Ja'Kai Polite with the sack. So, guys are starting to contribute. You're getting contributions in different angles, and, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. The next game, the road starts. It's in San Francisco, and, they're back on the road and they're back on prime time. So Sunday Night Football against San Francisco, that's going to be a huge game. They may be down 21-7 against Miami going into the half, but it's far from over, 1, and 2. San Francisco would be 2-3, and they'd be playing, pretty desperate against the Rams next weekend. So that could go a lot of different ways. Alexis, I'll leave you to finish this thing off.
Thanks. As always, if you guys like what you hear, please like and subscribe. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Downtown Rams. We always have really good content on there. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake on Twitter at JKBogan DTSN. We will be back later this week with a preview of the Rams versus 49ers game. But until then, everyone have a great rest of your week, and go Rams.
And Lakers.